rather hot topic, mid-career crisis. The way I see corporate life, we typically start at the age of about 22, some 23, some 24, some 25, but give or take a few, it's about 22. And if you really have a good run, you can go up to about 62, 63. So about 40 odd years is the runway you have. Now, 40 years is a very long time. If some of you run, and you know that a marathon is 42 kilometers, you don't start sprinting from the beginning. And if you sprint or you start running fast, you probably around the 20th kilometer, you start fatiguing and your body doesn't have the energy to then run the balance 20 kilometers at the same pace. And therefore, it's extremely critical, unless you are a trained professional marathon runner who can continue to run at a solid speed through the 40 kilometers, you'll tire yourself out. Now, when you start your career, it's like running a marathon. And marathon doesn't mean that you run slow initially and fast later on. It just means that you have to keep in mind that it's a 40 kilometer race and you have to go through the 42nd kilometer, actually 42, but I'm just saying because of 40 years of corporate life, I'm just saying it as a 40 kilometers. And you have to pace yourself. Don't get too tired by the time you're 20 kilometers or 20 years. And if you are, then what do you do to ensure that your next 20 years is going to be fruitful? Now, typically, this is called the mid-career crisis. And while I'm saying 20, it strikes people anywhere from the 8th year onwards. Now, what I'll do is I have a small presentation and I'll run you through the presentation and I'll keep stopping by and looking for questions in case you are in case you have a doubt or anything of that kind. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, how do I hide my lower panel? There you are. Okay. So I am going to cover the typical 5 stages of a professional career. First, for the very newcomers who are going to be preparing for corporate life, they're either in their MBA school or their engineering school, or maybe just in the first odd year of the corporate life. The second is what I call as the ascent. Everybody is in a high speed, high gear mode. Then comes the third stage, which is the mid-career, the 10 to 20 years of work life, when you start to figure out that you're not moving up as well or as fast or in the right direction as you are. And this is what I call as the mid-career crisis. The fourth stage is the last few years of work and then the post-active work. My screen doesn't seem to be moving forward. I'll try and, okay. So what we're going to do is forget the fourth and the fifth stage, focus largely on the third stage. Now the first phase, just as a small prelude to the third stage, is you basically study and skill to prepare for the corporate life. You're typically an MBA student or an engineering student or just a commerce or arts graduate. But more importantly, at this stage, when you enter day one of college, you need to define your goal and choose the field of your interest. Very often, we tend to get swayed by what our friends are saying and what we think are great careers. And therefore, a lot of people get into sales and marketing. Now, not necessarily that everybody is going to be good in sales and marketing. Somebody could be a great analytics guy, or somebody could be a great HR professional or a finance professional. And therefore, it's important to know what is your field of interest. And just don't go by what you think will make the climb or the ascent in corporate life, and therefore bigger designations, bigger money, and etc. etc. But more importantly, you have to define your goals. I see about 30 odd, 35 odd people who were on the call, other than Palak and Niladri. Uh, how many of the 35 of you who are working have a goal if you have already started working? If you do not have a goal, then the chances are that you will start losing track of where you are going faster than others. Imagine if you're living in Gurgaon and you are in cyber hub having a meal, and you want to go to your home, and your home is in some part of Delhi, let's say Patel Nagar, and you don't have a GPS, or you don't know the way to your home, and you start going in some random direction. For all you know, instead of landing up at Patel Nagar, you'll end up at Prithvihar, which are slightly, distant away. And therefore, if you start your career without having a goal, you'll meander all the way, right? And then, of course, at the start of the long journey, and at the beginning of the journey, you are absolutely confident, full of energy on making the impossible possible. So that's the first stage. There's something going wrong with my laptop. And then you say, okay, sky's the limit, and you start enjoying the first few years, great amount of difference to what you've been leading as a life. Then comes the second stage. This basically start up to 8 or maybe even 10 years. Perhaps 10 years is the right way. Your tasks and assignments that you are normally given by your boss are invariably below your inherent, innate caliber and potential. Because you're starting and you think, oh, this is easy, and you start doing stuff and you feel that you can do it, and you pick up things fast. You are excited because you're learning new stuff. There could be new roles. You could be moving into a geography which is different from where you lived all your life. You're meeting different people. There's a lot of freedom away from home. You get into different kinds of relationship. You have a great boss, great peers. Initially, you may not have subordinates, but at some stage you have subordinates, etc. And you invariably taste success, which is the first promotion. It's relatively easy to come by. Because typically when you start, everybody gets promoted, irrespective of the job that you're doing or the role that you're doing. You get promoted at the end of 2 years or 3 years or whatever. And I think the critical one is, how do you feel when you are on day one of school? Day one of school, there are some kids who are extremely excited, who are what do I say, looking forward to going to school, enjoying the bus ride, enjoying being away from home. And there are a second set of people who kind of are crying because they don't know where they're heading to, and therefore they're scared. Now, depending on your reaction, you have to be careful of the pitfalls that come the long way. One is that in your first 3-4 months, your student life lingers on. And when your student life lingers on, you are coming to office on time, your sleep cycle is different, you have nobody at home to tell you, hey, get to bed. And therefore, you sleep late, sometimes you get up late, you're shabby, you're not shaved well, you're not had a bath, and your hair looks untidy. All these start making a difference. your deliveries are not always on time. In the college, if you have a project, the professor tells you that you've got to submit the project by 20th. You can always go on 21st, 22nd. You can always go on 21st, 22nd and say, sir, sorry, blah, blah, blah. Then I think the bigger problem is the lack of a corporate goal. Now, I don't know how many of you are physics and science students, but there's something called as the Brownian motion. Now, Brownian motion was a physicist called Robert Brown who described the motion of a particle whose motion was not dependent on its own will. It was dependent on the pressure and the and the blow of wind which happened in whichever direction the particle moved. Now, if that kind of motion sets into your corporate life, then you are in trouble. You start having location constraints, the comparison with colleagues. Oh, I'm earning X lakhs, he's earning X plus 1 lakhs. You're a lot more sensitive to corporate harshness. Managers are in a hurry and they say, hey, listen, do this job, yeah, I want to do it, I don't care about you. And then you are very sensitive because many of the kids who join corporate world, they haven't been spoken harshly at home and they don't know the pressures of work life. And therefore they become very sensitive. Oh, my boss said this to me. This is the manner in which he said this to me. The lack of patience to grow. You've done your MBA and you think that you'll become a CEO in 5 years. It doesn't happen like that. And the lack of patience also comes because you don't have a corporate goal. The quality of job, the work environment, the mentor come, supervisor, or the lack of all this are also something that you have to watch out for. And sometimes when you're not happy with your quality of job or the work environment or your boss, you try and take a change. And you take a change based on some friend tells you, oh, this is a great, very cool or smooth organization. And you make a job change. And you're basically jumping from the frying pan to the fire. And frequent job changes, which basically doesn't add anything to your skill, but basically adds more to your money, is the worst thing that can happen if in your first 5 years of your life. I don't know why. So then comes the third stage, which is the mid-career crisis. Now, this basically starts with a confused state of mind. And what I'll do is I'll try and take you through the early symptoms of it. Third are some corporate myths. Third is the state of misery and the self-inflicted wounds that you have on yourself. And then I'll try and come with the mantra of success and hopefully see you through. First of the confusion is, as I've already said, goals of uncertain future. Do you define a career goal? We seldom define. And if once you do define and you achieve it, typically the goal that you achieve is that in 5 years, I want to be a regional manager. Now, let's say instead of 5, you become a regional manager in 5 or 6 years. You feel very happy. But the question is, what after that? We all agreed that the corporate life is around 40 odd years. You've achieved your first goal of 5 years. You still have 35 years more to go. If you do not have a goal for the next 10 years or 5 or 10 years, your career will again start meandering and you probably go to a path of random motion and you'll get lost. So it's that point of time to take stock of your progress and redefine your new goals and path. And I think it's important that you are mindful of whether you achieved, not achieved. If you have not achieved, why? And then if you have achieved, and what next? Confusion two is, am I a leader or a follower? Because when you start your work, year 1, year 2, year 3, you are typically given directions by your supervisor, by your boss. Hey, why don't you do this? We have a launch, prepare this. And you are following your boss's instruction. But somewhere in the middle, you get promoted. You have one or two people below. You're supposed to take care and supervise their work. And as you grow into a slightly senior managerial position, your mind is confused because you're supposed to take on leadership roles in some areas, and you're supposed to still be a follower in some areas. And therefore, the transition from a follower to a leader is a state of confusion in your mind that is extremely important to recognize. You have to devote time to change, and there is a so it's not like you are a follower and then next day you're a leader. You are a follower. You move to a stage where you are a follower come leader. As I said, in 30-40% of the time you are going to be following, or maybe 50%, and 50% of the time you're leading. And for that period when you are leading, there are certain traits of a leader. And unless you recognize those traits in yourself and devote yourself to emerge as a leader, you are going to be an unsuccessful leader. Right? So you have to drive your tasks, display initiative, lead from the front, take risks, and more importantly, if as a follower and also as a leader, you have to ask the right questions. You have to challenge the seniors at some point of time, but for the right reason and for the right manner. And you got to also avoid a trap to look up for leadership every time. There are many times when your subordinate is not doing a job and you ask your supervisor to intervene and say, hey, listen, I can't do this job because Ramesh, who's my subordinate, is not able to fulfill that. So this confusion of slowly moving from a follower to leader is something that is a part of the mid-career state of mind. Well, it's a period of enjoyment and it's a state of mind. Confusion number 3 is the fear of unknown. I'm doing well. I moved up from an executive to an ASM to a regional manager to a zonal manager. I now am comfortable. At this point of time, I have been asked to move from being a sales guy to a logistics person. And I come from a cement industry where logistics is a very large function, nearly as large as sales. And I'm scared. The company wants you to go there because they want to multi-skill you and groom you for the future. And you suddenly feel, is this the right thing to do? I've done so well, and look, let's not make a change. Why should I dream for enough for a bigger thing? I'm doing a great job as a zonal manager. Let's move. Let's stay there. Let's stay in the role of a sales guy. Let me try and change my job if required. Now, what you're doing is you're accepting your career the way it's moving. There are times when your movement is not vertically straight. You have to step aside, take a side step, and then move up. So imagine it's not like a ladder as is always shown. Success is not like one step, then one up, one up, one up. Imagine if it is a Z kind of a ladder. So you go up and then you go right 2 steps, and then again you go 3 steps up, and again you go right 3 steps, and again you go up. And like that, it's a zigzag ladder that goes up. But very few people realize that. And their ability to take risks because they're doing well in a particular role. I don't want to go to role number 2, which is very different from the role that I'm doing. You're trying to be in your comfort zone. And therefore, you don't move up. Somebody else takes that, and initially you think that, oh, this guy is making a mistake, while as he moves up. Confusion number 4 is, am I on the right track? 12, 13, 14 years into the system, you find one of your friend is joined a startup and is doing very well. And you say, look, should I change my track? Should I become an entrepreneur? And sometimes the emotions versus logic. My emotions say, let me try my hand at being an entrepreneur. But my logic is, what if I fail? And you know, it's a difficult decision to take on changing track. So these are the four big states of confusion in your mind. Then you come to the myths. I'll give you about a half a dozen of them. Myth one, we are the solution to all the problems. Sometimes when you do very well and when your boss is looking at you to deliver, you think that everything should be done by me myself. My boss trusts me and he expects me to deliver over and over again. And therefore, you start literally doing work of your subordinates. It's okay, you can do it for once, you can do it for twice. But imagine if you have 6 or 7 subordinates and you start doing your job plus their job and you start looking at micro details, then you run into a problem. Because you think that everything depends on you. You don't delegate, you don't trust others, and you have overconfidence in your own ability, but you have underconfidence in your team's capability. The myth two is I know it. I've been in this business. I know selling like the back of my hand. And in many meetings, you start becoming very cocky, you becoming very arrogant, you stop learning, you stop listening to somebody else who may have a half view which could be useful. And in many cases, sometimes new youngsters come in with new knowledge. Somebody comes in from a new industry. He has knowledge of a different kind. Somebody comes in from a different function and has a functional view. You ignore that knowledge and you say, oh, look, I'm so and so. I'm from IT so and so. I've done my engineering from NIT. And you start believing that your degrees are more important than the knowledge that somebody else brings in. And once that starts happening, you are seen not as a team player, but you're seen as somebody who's selfish, has to grow only himself and not take the lead, not take the team forward. The third myth is extremely aggressive behavior makes us heard and makes us powerful. I don't know whether you've been in times when there is a meeting going on and there are two people who are literally fighting. My point versus your point. Now, that is the worst thing that can happen. And there are times when people move from the field to the corporate office. Now, in the field, there is less audience. There are not too many peers, there are not too many supervisors. Basically, you and your down below. You can behave a little cocky, you can behave a little arrogant. But once you come to corporate office has many people seeing you directly, indirectly. Not listening to your peers in other functions, or you're a regional manager 1, there's another regional manager 2, and there's another regional manager 3. You start behaving with all the regional managers as if they were your ASMs. That management style doesn't work. Listening skills are extremely important. You've got to be able to learn from your supervisors, but also learn from your peers and also learn from your subordinates. I think the attitude of not being positive is very detrimental. And when you start being cynical, I know this, but this guy doesn't know. I know, why the hell is he wasting everyone's time? Those are things which start seeing you as, again, a non-team player, poor leader, etc. The other thing is, of course, talk to my hand, which is again a very arrogance that you display. You have passion. You have a certain point of view, and if there is any blockage to that point of view, you become very impatient. And your body language, your face contorts, you start shrugging your shoulders, and your words, the way you speak, the tone, tenor, voice, modulation, everything changes. And all that either puts off people or it makes them feel important in case you're doing it the right way. But Myth number 3, which is an aggressive behavior, either in meetings or with people, or talk to my hand syndrome, are things which really can be detrimental to your career, and they are seen by senior people, sometimes seen by HR, sometimes seen by people who are going to promote you as somebody who eats up people. I don't know whether you get this thing about eating up people. People are scared to work under you. And so there will be people who will say, look, I don't want to work with Saurabh, or I don't want to work with Nikhil, or I don't want to work with Sekat because he's too dominating, he doesn't listen, he's extremely aggressive, etc. I'll take a pause here. Any questions? And then we move forward. Anybody? I see some things in the chat. Let me try and say your voice is not clear. Encouraging all to switch on. Good morning, sir. My name is Shiv, and I have a 9 years of sales experience. I have now realized that I don't enjoy it. I was a manager at my previous employer, Juno. Now I'm unsure what to do. Simply because AI is prevalent everywhere. Therefore, you could advise me on what to do. Business analytics is something I'm considering. Okay, Shiv, I will answer this question a little later in the thing. Dr. Upendra, you have something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Especially any organization, 3 layers, initially the executive and the middle management, that is something project manager or a manager up to senior manager or a departmental head. Then the top layer is the VP and above level. This is any organization, it could be sales or operation. But what I could see, and Indian is more into the operations production center. So very less opportunity moving from general manager to VP level or senior manager to VP level. That layer, very rare opportunity, either inside or external. Then everybody want to grow, but opportunity very less. That is one perspective. But if I look at the market report and other stuff, there is a lot of CXO levels, a lot of shortage in the skills, a lot of CEOs, CTO, CAO, blah, 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 they wanted. But where is the gap actually? How to fulfill these skills or, opportunity to prove that layer to move?
I think very good question. What I have so far covered are essentially the skills you must have. I have talked of 4 myths. If I go back, so myth 1 was everything rests on you. And so if I give an analogy of a cricket, you are scoring a double 100 in Ranji Trophy. But when it comes to international cricket, you start getting out in 20s, 30s, etc. Why does it happen? Do you follow cricket, Dr. Payne?
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine a Ranji Trophy player who scored 100, 150, but when he goes and starts representing India in test matches, he scores only 20, 25. Why? Because the pitch is not, it's flat, the bowling is weak, and when you're playing test cricket, there could be swing, bounce, etc. Now you are not prepared for test cricket, right? You're not played county cricket. You have not been batting. Why your batting is not facing international bowlers. Similarly, in corporate life, when you are at the mid-level, if you make mistakes of the ones that I have just said, then irrespective of anything, you will not be considered for top talent. And therefore, many times when there are bright people, they don't move up because they're either seen as doing things on their own, they don't delegate. Now, a CEO can't do everybody's job, or a vice president operations cannot do every department's job. Or you stop listening, your behavior starts changing. So Your middle management is, yeah, actually your junior management as you enter is all about knowing the job, doing it well. The second level is the confusion between a leader and a follower. When you are partly doing the job, you are executing and partly leading. Now, this is the level which is called the mid-career, is where you get stuck because you are unable to let go your operating job and develop your leadership skills and develop skills which are soft skills, if I may use the word. How do you interact with people in meetings? How do you deal with people? How do you get work done? Are you a good listener? Do you have a goal? What kind of roles should you be doing? Uh, Various things. And therefore, the shortage is because most people start failing in the 8 to 15-year work experience. They don't climb up to the test match level. They continue to score well at the Ranji Trophy level, but they don't move on. And the problem with Ranji Trophy is that you don't get paid well. It's it's once in a year. You you play. You don't get fame. You don't get name. Your pay per day is very small compared to test cricket. You don't get endorsements, etc. So I think let's go to the next 4 or 5 more slides. Maybe you can relate your question to the issue that I'm trying to. Okay. The fifth problem that I think is pussyfooting syndrome. You're extra cautious. You're non-committal. You're non-controversial. Your ability to take risks that differentiates between a bold leader, successful, confident versus somebody who's going through a mid-career crisis. You, while nobody says that you should be doing reckless things, but you are evaluating the pros and cons too much. You're looking for too much of data, and you are not taking action. And therefore, what you do is what you call as pussyfoot syndrome. You're pussyfooting this. You're not taking time into consideration in taking a decision on what to do. The sixth biggest big hit is about trophy cabinet syndrome. If you see some of these film stars and cricket stars, they have lots of trophies: man of the match, man of the series, player of the this, whatever. You know. So you find many people who will keep saying, "Oh, in my previous organization, I did this, and we launched the product, and this I did A, B, C, D, and it was such a big success." Now that past success is not going to be in any way contributing to your future success unless it is meant to be an inspiration. Since you have succeeded, you know it that you succeeded, and these are the 5 things that you did to succeed. Those 5 things should lead you to inspire for further success. But if you think that your previous success is going to be used as a measure of your future success, it won't work. Have you recently seen Virat Kohli score 166? He was jubilant because he knew that he has not been scoring well for the last 3 years. And he's had now 3 centuries, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and suddenly there is a revival. If he had not done well, what do you think would have happened? Another 2 months, 3 months, he would have been dropped. So in corporate world, you can't say that, look, I was a star ASM, I got the national best salesman award when I was ASM or a regional manager, but now I'm looking for a sales and marketing head, but I'm not able to get the job. Because you were good at that level. Have you moved up? Sometimes you have to be humble. Your determination to achieve more. As they say, the best is yet to come. But if you think that the best was what you did in the past organization or in the past role, then you are saying that this is the best, and therefore I can't move forward. And so your past successes should only guide you to future successes on what you did well and how does it inspire you to do take the next step forward. Myth number 7 is that perception management is the only way to success. Now, what happens is that sometimes, not always, one person or the other in your organization, you think he is no good, but he is in the good books of management for whatever reason. Now, perception management is good. It will take you to maybe 1 level or 2 level, but it has to be balanced with great performance, good performance. A good performance without perception is also doesn't work because you have to be seen to be performing well. But only perception management without success or without good performance doesn't yield result. So don't try and over focus on your perception. At the same time, don't be the invisible good manager in the office. You have to be visible, but you have to be visible with good performance. Another myth that I think a lot of people have is I won't share my data with him. I don't share my best practices with him. And there's a sign of insecurity. There's a sign of mental weakness. Information must be shared at the right time with the right manner. In the sense that if you are in a meeting with, let's say, 5 of your colleagues and your supervisor, and then you share the information, then I think it will be seen as collaboration and not as and as a positive trait. And the last one, I think it's a pretty average one, is the think tank syndrome. You feel that now I don't need to execute. I don't need to get my hands dirty. I am a thinker, and there are very few such roles. At very senior levels, you're a thinker and you're a doer. But the mix of thinking and execution keeps changing as you are trainee to a senior leadership role. When you are trainee, you are a lot more execution and less thinking. As you move a little ahead, you become a little more thinking and a little less execution. And by the time you are in your mid-career, you don't know whether you are execution or you are thinking. You sometimes overthink and under execute, or sometimes you over execute and underthink. And therefore, you got to be very wary of what is the cause of your crisis. I think these are the 9 myths that I have got. What you must do is to understand that if you are stuck, is there anything of these 9 myths and the 4 confusion states that I have mentioned to you, is something helping you? Nobody can give an answer to your problem. You will have to diagnose, if you are stuck, why are you stuck? Are these 4 states of confusion currently there? Are you facing any of those 4 states of confusion? If so, are these 9 myths applicable to you? And then, if you do think, then you have to start working on it. Let me take you to what finally this state of confusion leads you to. It leads you to a state of misery. You start desiring before you deserve. You say, oh, I've already spent 4 years in my role. Now, why the hell am I not getting a promotion? I spent 6 years doing sales and I've not come to the same level as the other guy who spent only 4 years. Now, promotion, change of role, if you see only these are the signs of growth, then I think your mid-career crisis is going to come faster. If you think that you have a supervisor who mentors you well, if you have an organization which is great work culture, or if you are not given a part of your critical, participate in critical projects, and or you think critical projects are useless. What's going to happen if I become a member of the launch of a particular product? So I think you when you start having negativity, when you start bitching about the organization, when you start feeling that your supervisor is useless and all the problems in your career are because of the organization, because of your boss, because of your finance function, HR function, then you are in this phase of self-pity. There is negativity within you. And if you do not overcome mid-career crisis, you will lead to self-pity. You will lead to a situation where you are blaming everybody outside you, other than you, for the cause of your being stuck at some level. Who stuck? You. Who should think how to get out? You. Maybe if you have a good mentor, good supervisor, you can consult. But taking feedback is another big thing. Now, second part of the misery is when there is self-doubt. Nowadays, because of Ukraine war, because of COVID, because of economic recession, there is an organization restructuring that happens. You find Microsoft is laying off people, Amazon is laying off people, Metaverse is laying off people, Apple is laying off people. So many IT companies are laying off people. Sometimes there is an organization restructuring, especially multinational companies. They lay off people. Either they lay off people or you're given a different role. Now, if you start having self-doubt, or if you start feeling, oh, what the hell has happened to me? I'm sunk. This is the bottom of the pit. Then, and you are already in your mid-career crisis, it will lead to further loss in confidence and leading to further misery. Now, self-pity is the worst thing that can happen to yourself. It basically means that you have given the control of your life to some unknown entity or to somebody or some entity which is outside you. If you don't control your life, there is very little chance that somebody else will control your life. And therefore, you need to figure out what is missing. Are you filling time or are you missing life? There are times when you are busy, leave home at 7:38 and you come back at 8:39 and you are working, traveling plus working 12 to 13 hours, 14 hours. You don't get a weekend off. There is no time for your personal life. You want to read a book, you want to go to the gym. There's no family time. Life becomes a routine. Now, the moment that becomes, by the time you hit home, you're tired, you're mentally fatigued. And you need to realize that the organization really wants you to make that sacrifice. Or are you doing it? Invariably, the people who are successful, you will find them, they work hard. When they take leave, they take frequent leaves, they enjoy their Saturday, Sundays. They may be working a little once in a while. I'm not saying that Saturday you don't open your laptop. I've also opened my laptop today on Saturday. I'm sure all of you are there. But there has to be a balance. Now, if you don't have this balance, and God forbid, you are also facing a certain mid-career crisis, it will produce an extremely unhappy person. But if you are otherwise happy and you're facing a mid-career crisis, the chances are that you can hold yourself up and say, hey, what's happening to me? Let me try and take stock of myself. You are more in a positive frame of mind. You are more likely to listen to yourself, listen to your friend, listen to your boss, listen to your inner voice, be objective in saying, why did somebody else move up and I did not? And therefore overcome your mid-career. And the last one that I would say in terms of state of misery is all these negativities, you build in extra stress on yourself. When you bring in extra stress, your health starts failing. All these myths that we've talked about, lack of delegation, getting into conflicts, unable to accept mistakes, perception management, jealousy. It impacts your health. Improper work-life balance. Uh, and then, as you move a little ahead into the top of the middle management or the bottom of the top management, it starts impacting your health. Imagine you're diabetic. Now, if you're diabetic, if you have blood pressure, and it starts showing on your performance, then you are seen as not a long-term bet. How can you handle pressure? And therefore, keeping yourself mentally and physically fit is extremely critical. And those who are unable to handle their mid-career crisis, they become a double victim of the impact of waning health. So mid-career crisis can lead to many of these things: self-pity, sulking at home, not wanting to go out, not wanting to exercise, not being in shape, not being happy, etc. I think what I will leave with you all are the 7 ingredients of success. I've already spoken about the 7 myths, the 9 myths, the confusion. So you got to take into account all those, and these 7 are little away from the others. You must have a supportive family who can not only enjoy all your joys, but also be a part of your worries. You have to be able to open up either to your brother or to your wife or to your father, mother, whoever else is there in your family. Take guidance from them. Take help from them. You must have a burning desire to follow your dreams. And in that, if required, necessary, swallow your ego, listen to people, and course correct. More importantly, love and enjoy whatever you do. I've, I'm now, I'm coming to the end of my 36 years of career. And I have heard so many people saying, I'm bored. I don't like doing my job. Now, I'm not sure how people can think of not enjoying the job, because if they can't find challenge in mundane things, that means they have stopped looking at doing things in a better way. If you can't do better things, then one of the things that you should not drop is doing the same thing better and better, being more efficient, being more productive. You have to find challenges. You can't have always new things coming to your way. You have to make new things happen, but there are sometimes you have to make the current things perfect and look for challenges in them. I think it's a no-brainer. If you start losing confidence in yourself, you're going to be stuck. But important thing is, and I don't think many of us do the 6th thing. How many of you have read your last full book, and when? How many of you thought that these are the 3 skills that I need to move up, and let me do a course on, if it's analytics, something that you can read on edXL or Coursera, or if it's a behavioral skill, let me join some course or some reading material from Harvard or something. We rarely think of upskilling ourselves. By the way, for many of you, let me tell you, 36 years ago, I started my career in the area of finance. I'm an MBA in finance. 3 years later, I realized that I enjoy doing sales. So I moved in the same company to do a sales assignment, and I worked in sales for 7 years. I think I did a great job. And then the company decided to promote me and make me head of a manufacturing plant. So by the end of 9 or 10 years, I was entering at the end of 9 years actually, I was entering my 3rd function. And as I'm on my last few years of work life, I had technology for Dalmia Cement. I started with digital transformation for about a year and a half or 2. And now I had technology. And technology means hardcore SAP, Oracle, cloud, network, security, infrastructure, everything. If you don't skill yourself, and I read a lot, I have to read a lot, attend webinars, listen to people, understand what is it. But at the same time, if you ask me to do coding in Java or coding in ABAP, which is the SAP thing, I don't know a single syntax. I don't know how to write a single line of code. But I know what are the new technologies coming up, and therefore I have upskilled myself. And if I had not upskilled myself, I would have retired a year back. So identifying what is your next round of skill is very, very critical to your ingredient, to your success mantra. And the last one is have faith in one supreme. Don't blame somebody else for your failure, and don't grant somebody else the reason to be if you are the success. So the center of gravity for everything that happens to you lies within you. And for some of you who have studied science between 8th, 9th, 10th, you will know that a stable body is that where the center of gravity passes through the body. The moment the center of gravity falls outside the body tumbles. Thank you. And I'm happy to take questions. I think we have some time left, but I'm happy to give you more time.
Sir, one question: how to cool down arrogant manager?
How to cool down arrogant managers? Be humble yourself. If he's arrogant, he's falling into his pit of failure. The best way is you be humble, you be nice and courteous. I think that manager at some stage will realize that arrogance doesn't work. Arrogance does not work beyond the first level of success. If you go to the village, sometimes in the village they bake rice or khichdi in a wooden pot. Now that can be used only once. Arrogance is some of that. If it leads to success of somebody, it will be only once. The second time he is bound to fail. So just be yourself, be the good man that you are, be a good soul, and don't worry about what he's doing. Nikhil?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
सर कई बार फेल होने के बाद भी बहुत सारे एंटरप्रेन्योर है जिन्होंने वर्क को रीस्टार्ट करा है सेम फील्ड में और गोल को अचीव करा है, तो ये एटीट्यूड आता कहाँ से है और इसको मेंटेन कैसे किया जाता है?
बहुत वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन, आउटस्टैंडिंग क्वेश्चन। मैंने जो 7 मंत्रास लिखे थे उसमें कॉन्फिडेंस इन योरसेल्फ था।
या
बी कॉन्फिडेंट ऑफ योरसेल्फ, हैव फेथ इन द सुप्रीम and learn from your mistakes. You failed. Now, somebody will see the event of failure as a failure, and somebody will see the event of a failure as learning. And some people who are optimistic and who are confident in themselves, they will see learning in that failure. They will fail once, they will fail twice, they will fail thrice. He is the most learned man, as long as he is not repeating the same mistake again and again. Right?
थैंक यू। एक क्वेश्चन और है मेरा।
बोलिए।
आपने एयरसेल के साथ काम किया, तो एयरसेल ने खुद को मार्केट में प्रूव नहीं कर पाया, इसके पीछे क्या रीजन है? कौन ऐसा मिस्टेक है जो एयरसेल कर रही है?
बहुत सारे कारण हैं, वो कॉर्पोरेट लेवल की बात है। लेट्स ट्राई एंड फोकस ऑन इंडिविजुअल mid-career analysis. And I think on the chat, I have a couple of questions. There is Priya Rana. I have a question, sir. I'm Priya. I'm working currently, but I'm not happy and not seeing my growth. So should I change my job instantaneously? I think I have answered part of your question, Priya. Changing a job will only take you to another dark room, unless you know what you're heading to. Number one. Number two, you need to first identify why you are unhappy. If you don't, if you don't know why you are unhappy, then you may not know whether changing your job will make you happy or not. So don't look at change as a job as your medicine. Look at trying to solve. If you say, I worked for 8 years, I have experience number 1, 2, 3, and in 15 years, I want to reach there. And for that, I need a role where I can display my leadership skills. And here is a role which helps me to display my leadership skills. And therefore, I want to change my job. Then many things not evaluated, I would say, yeah, that's a good line of thinking. But I'm sorry if I say something which may not necessarily be very easy to digest. But from the question that you've written, I'm not happy and not seeing my growth. Have you put your growth in somebody else's hand?
No, sir.
Then take charge of yourself. What element of growth is missing? Ask that question to yourself, and then within that organization, is there a role? Is there a different role that you can do, or within that role, can you solve your problem? You'll have to speak to your mentor.
But sir, if you are not happy to work in that company and you're forcing to work yourself, so maybe you harming yourself and your skills as well.
You may be right.
So
You may be right, and you may be wrong. It depends on, are many others happy? So
pardon, sir?
are many others in the organization happy? If so, then maybe you should figure out why are they happy and you are unhappy. If there are genuine reasons of your being unhappy in an organization, then take a particular call. But it's very easy. The cause of your unhappiness needs to be uncovered before you can answer. Jumping a job is actually the worst thing to do, because it's like a known devil versus unknown devil. Grass is always greener on the other side. But at the same time, there are genuine cases when you get a very good opportunity. See, if you ask me, I am doing ABC and I'm getting a fantastic opportunity. I love my organization. 95% of the people who are very happy in their current roles, they love their boss, they love the organization, but are unable to see growth because of whatever reasons, and find a bigger role, they are the ones who are happy. If you are stagnating, if you are unhappy, you are already in a negative frame of mind. Chances are that the job that you jump to will be, if I say it in Hindi, it's like saying डूबते को तिनके का सहारा. वो तिनका जो है वो आपको डुबो देगा. परंतु आप I'm doing very well. I'm getting this growth, but I've already climbed 4 levels in my organization. 5th level मुझे दिखता नहीं है. Not for the next 5 years, 7 years. You get my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Karthik?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So I was recently reading this book, Man's Search for Meaning. So I randomly just got this question in my head. So my question to you, Saurabh, is that how do one find solace in their midlife crisis? Like many people teach you the theory, but nobody teaches you the practicality of it. So how do one find the meaning, or are there any real techniques to how to overcome that feeling of not understanding any meaning or being stuck there?
Can you simplify your question and ask that question again?
Simplifying my question,
And ask
how
again.
do one find a meaning and solace in their midlife crisis, and how to overcome that in practical way? I mean, the techniques of it. Are there any techniques of it?
See, if you are stuck, the first and foremost thing that you have to do is to say, are you stuck because you want to achieve something and you're not there? Or are you stuck because you don't know what you want? That's the first thing. So if you go back to my slides, and I'll send this slide to Palak, and with a request that if Palak can share it with people, I'm happy to help you. The first thing is, मुझे पता ही नहीं कि मुझे जाना कहाँ है, and therefore I'm at a crossroads where there are not 3 but 6, 7 roads, and I'm confused. And I can see 2, 3 good things, 2, 3 good things here, and or maybe I can't see anything. If you can see 6, 7 roads, then it probably is still a good scenario to be. But there could be a time when you are walking on a road and there's too much of fog and you can't see anything. So first and foremost, clear the fog in your mind. What do you want? Is there an objective you have in your mind? Second, what is required to achieve from a knowledge point of view, from a skill point of view, from an attitude, behavior point of view, your human dimension, which is leadership and all that, leadership, ability to work in a team, empathize with the team, listening skills, very critical. And third thing is to be honest about your own self-assessment. And sometimes you cannot make a self-assessment of your own, which is complete. Speak to some supervisor whom you have full trust on. You have to find somebody whom you can trust, unless you are very mature in your own self. Now, once you get these 3 things, you've cleared the fog in your mind as to where you want to go. Second is, what are the knowledge, skills, and attitude and human behaviors that you need to have? Where are you and where is the gap? And fourth is, how do you bridge that? What kind of projects do you take? What kind of roles do you take? So you will come into a situation where you are stuck. Imagine a situation where you are married happily and you're living in a city and you get breakfast, lunch, dinner, neat house, everything taken care of, either done by the maid or by your wife, or partly maid, partly wife, but managed everything by your wife. And you are now thrown into another city for 1 year because the school kids, the school and the kids, the timing is different. You move in, let's say, in April or May. Now you can't get admission and you have to go to the next city and join only in March. So for about 10 months, you have to live alone. You don't want to eat food outside, you have to cook. Now, how do you take that cooking experience is part of your mid-career crisis? I mean, on a personal life versus a corporate life. If you start crying, where am I, yaar, ye koi tameez hai yaar, main to phas gaya, ye kya hota hai? Or you start having only khichdi, or breakfast salad or whatever. Or you start eating only food from outside and put on 10, 15 kgs of weight. Are these the right things to have? You're faced with a crisis, you're faced with a situation, you overcome that. So similarly, in your career, you will have those things, similar crises. So you have to be able to move in not a random fashion, but in a very planned manner. And let me give you one statistical data. 95% people go through a mid-career crisis. So don't be worried about having a mid-career crisis. I've gone through it. And I think all of you will, if you have not gone through, will go through once. The question is not whether you will or will not. The question is how well you come out of it. Do you come out? Do you continue to keep cursing your boss, your organization, your wife, your kids, your surroundings, your peers, or you start working constructively and get out of it. If you are the number one, you are the CEO of an organization versus you are the next level versus you are the, let's say, the entry level to top management. The salary, the perks, the monetary benefits. At the third level, if it's X, the next level is about 3X, and the top level is about 10X. X, 3X, 10X. Let's say 1 lakh, 3 lakhs, 10 lakhs. So it is extremely important for you to understand what you should be doing. You may end up saying, look, I can't be the CEO. CEO needs these characteristics. I am not able to. Doesn't matter. You aim for the number 2 level. And then start working towards that. Okay. One last question, if anybody has.
Yeah, I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, what I observed, sir, many of them have grown from one particular technology or a process or a domain till mid-level career. For example, a manufacturing engineer or designer, he could be the general manager engineering or design. In order to go into top level, you should have a multiple collaboration skill, multiple departmental understanding knowledge to drive it large scale. So unfortunately, fortunately, everybody wants to become a VP or a CEO in the particular domain. It may not possible. So in order to grow at a collaborate level, at top level, what kind of skills which we can move out of our core domain competency, which we will over 20 years, and completely build a new leadership skill, which you don't know other domains, but however you need to drive and take to the next level. So in this case, there is a wider opportunity if somebody want to move to the generalized skill rather than a specific domain where they came from.
See, I see two parts to your question. One is the domain and second is the skill. Now, if you become a general manager, let's say at the end of 20 years, and then you have to move to a VP level situation, which requires you to have multi-department knowledge or something, then while climbing up the 20 years is something that you, at some stage around the 8th year, 10th year, 5th year, whatever, I said that the climb is not always like this. The climb is sometimes like this, then you go up like this, then go like this, then go like this, then go like this. Very rarely is the climb steady like this. Very rarely. And therefore, if you have a goal that I need to become a VP operations at the end of 20th year, but you also know that for VP operations, I need to not only have manufacturing, but also I need to do project planning. I also need to be in, let's say, engineering, or so you can't have significant shifts, but at least you could be in a project. So when a new project is coming up, maybe it means going out of your hometown or your town in which you are comfortable, doing a 2-year stint as a project manager or as a deputy project manager, getting that skill so that when the time comes at the age of when you are 20 years old, you not only have manufacturing, but you also have project experience. So at the 10th year stage, then at that time, the comfort zone kicks in. Why should I go to a on-site project and do installation of all these things? No place, no medical facility, nothing, nowhere to stay, etc., etc. That's what starts. So once you're at the 20th year and you find that you are still a GM, then I think the best way is to say, okay, it's not too late. Is there a way I can become maybe a large project in which you remain a general manager, but there is some senior general manager who's leading the project. So you may not be the department head, but you may be the deputy deputy head, so that the domain knowledge comes in and you start learning. And then the VP operations might not happen in 20th year, but maybe 22nd, 23rd year. So those are called critical experiences. If for VP operations, you need 3 critical experiences, you must acquire those 3 critical experiences. I'll give you an example. I was in PepsiCo. PepsiCo had 2 businesses, beverage and food. So as you all know, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Mirinda, those are bottled soft drinks. And then you have Lay's, Uncle Chips, which is the snack. And so those are 2 businesses. On the second side, you had sales, marketing, and in an environment where everything is owned by the company. And the second is sales and marketing in an environment where you are a franchise, which means you're a franchise director. Now, if you want to become a VP, it is very important to have critical experiences. And therefore, people who move from beverage to snacks, sales to marketing, marketing to franchise, it requires a huge amount of mental adaptability. You're changing from one role to the other role, different. So if you're a franchise director or franchise manager, it's not your operation. You have already franchised it to somebody. Now you are overseeing it. Expenses are not in your control. People are not in your control. You have to still influence the franchise to work in a particular manner. It's a very different, it's a consulting mindset. But almost everybody whom I saw doing well had multiple roles. I joined the company. I was the head of operations in a company bottling setup. The second role that I did was a franchise director where all the operations were handled by franchise. Now largely called as RJ Corp, Varun Beverages Limited. But earlier there were multiple franchises. Now all those franchises have been merged into one, which is Varun Beverages. The third role I did was a sales development role based out of Thailand for beverage and snacks. And so in about 6 years, I did 3 different roles. And each role requires you to adjust mentally, physically, locationally, and requires a lot of adaptability. It's not easy, not always easy. So how you can be a VP Ops? If you have to have multiple domains, you'll have to get multiple domains. Okay, I think we are a little ahead of time. And thank you all. I hope you enjoyed. I hope the 75 minutes odd that you all spent, you had at least one thing to take away from. If almost all of you could even get one thing away from this, I think I would consider that as a 1 hour well spent. If not, then please forgive me. Himadri?
So Saurabh, I think, it's been a fantastic session in terms of, a lot of people would always have these questions, and I'm sure they would never have had a mentor who could answer them, these specific in detail. And I'm sure this is something that a lot of people struggle with, but very unfortunate that people can't share it with the right person. So I think, Saurabh, yeah.
I think many people don't have a goal.
Yeah.
They're fogged out very early in their life. They don't know where to go. And when you don't know where you want to go, then you are scared to go to a mentor also and ask clear-cut, crisp questions.
Correct.
You ask vague questions, you'll get vague responses.
Absolutely. Because, today everybody follows peer pressure and, people are just doing what others are doing without even realizing that what is their potential, what they genuinely want to do and where the passion lies. So I think this session is going to be really insightful, Saurabh, and I'm sure that midlife crisis is something that we all go through. And we've actually learned a lot from your experiences, and really thankful that you did take out time, and that's on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for your mentorship, and looking forward to have more sessions with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye. Have a nice weekend ahead.
Thank you. Bye.